honor, our collective honor, to welcome Michael Rubin from the American Enterprise Institute to talk to us about issues relating our freedom. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by saying...
Recording in progress.
Let me begin by saying Biafra exists. Biafra exists. When I analyze, it's important to recognize the obvious. It's willful blindness to embrace some of the excuses which the West uses to avoid discussing the autonomy, the freedom, the liberty, and the independence of Biafra. It is not climate change, but deliberate murder. Climate change doesn't hire Fulani gangs to rape and murder in Biafra. The authorities in Abuja do. And we need to recognize that reality. Too often, the State Department, the European Union, the African Union defer to the powerful against the weak. But that's not how human rights work. When it comes to the abuses of the Nigerian government, they must be held to account. When Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Muhammadu Buhari, the former president of Nigeria and a war criminal from the days of the first Biafra genocide, he took Nigeria off the State Department's religious freedom watch list. The United States and all other countries must calibrate our policies towards the reality of the way things are, rather than the way we wish things would be. The fact of the matter is, on any watch list for religious freedom, Nigeria should be on its blacklist. It should be its worst tier, because reality cannot be ignored, nor should human rights of all those in Biafra be swept under the bus. Frankly, if Nigeria spent as much energy hunting the perpetrators of violence against the Igbo as they do pressuring Finland to punish the free speech of Biafra's leaders, Nigeria would be a much better place. Unfortunately, rather than reform, rather than embrace liberty, rather than embrace self-determination, Nigeria seems to embrace transnational repression. And that is why all Biafra activists in Finland should be free. Now, a lot of people will look at Biafra and say, you know, we've never heard of Biafra. That reflects their ignorance and their ignorance of history rather than the necessary reality. But then you will have some naysayers who will say, why are you declaring independence, redeclaring independence in Finland rather than in Biafra itself? And again, that reflects an ignorance of history for those who might criticize. After all, Czechoslovakia declared its independence in Washington, D.C., right near where I sit now. And no one suggested that the Czechs and the Slovaks didn't deserve their freedom. The fact of the matter is, when one faces a lethal threat and lethal repression, you need to assert your freedom wherever you may be. but that doesn't forfeit your rights to your homeland. So, when it comes to Biafra, what I see is everything being done right. Let me put it this way. Again, I say this as an academic. I've been to many places around the world in which people desire their freedom. I've been to Iraqi Kurdistan, Turkish Kurdistan, and Syrian Kurdistan. And I've written a book where, while I empathize with the Kurds, they are not yet ready for independence because they have not taken the basic steps to form a unitary government that can step into the vacuum on day one and lead their people. That is something that the Biafrans have, a mistake the Biafrans have not made. What I see today with the organization of the Biafrans has been absolutely and completely admirable. You are not simply symbolically declaring independence. You are setting in motion a government which can take over all functions of the government. Now, some people may complain that Biafra now has its own army, and they may say that is a terrorist action. They are wrong. It is the job of any government to monopolize the use of force within its territory. The Nigerian army is the occupying army right now. Its job is not to monopolize the use of force within Biafra, because they have shown when they use force, they use it not for security, but to perpetrate insecurity. They use it to murder, they use it to rape, they use it to charter buses, to bring in militias, so that naive people may believe that they have nothing to do with what is going on in the region. Now, I'm a historian by training, which means I get paid to predict the past. Also, speaking of pay, let me be clear. I am receiving nothing for my advocacy for Biafra. I have been offered nothing, I have demanded nothing, and I am receiving nothing. Nor would it even be legal for me to accept money from anyone. I am speaking only as an analyst and only as someone who wants to further liberty. Now, I ask as a historian, where has it worked to force the victims of genocide together with their perpetrators? Where in history has that ever worked? Aggressors must understand that if they turn to genocide, they will always lose. The fact of the matter is, Nigeria lost Biafra in 1967. They may have won the war temporarily, but they permanently lost Biafra. The decisions they made 57 years ago forfeited any rights they have to control, to occupy, to speak on behalf of the people of Biafra. Let me conclude by saying, as an analyst again, I don't think the United States will be the first country to recognize Biafra. But I pray that it won't be the third country either. Biafra to move from Finland and to lobby vociferously, night and day, in order to ensure that the African Union recognizes that Biafra is already more organized, already more capable of statehood, already will have a higher standard of living, already will be at peace with itself and its neighbors more than many other African countries. And therefore, it will be a boon to Africa, a boon to the African Union, a boon to the spread of democracy in the region, an anchor for stability in the region, in an area that is increasingly unstable, especially as people come from the north in order to destabilize. So let me conclude by saying with my very short remarks that I wish I could be with you there today. Family prevented me from coming, but I admire what you're doing, I follow what you're doing, and I pray for what you're doing. Long live Biafra.
I think Agazie, yeah. It's okay, now. Okay. Would there be questions for Michael? Let me ask. Hey, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am sure that they are listening. I am sure that the West is listening. Michael, I am sure the White House is listening. So, Michael, are you open to take one or two questions? If not,
yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So, does anyone have a serious question for Mr. Michael?
Hail Biafra. Mr. Michael, I thank you for taking the opportunity to speak to Biafrans, and we appreciate what you're doing. My question is, have you had a cup of tea with Donald Trump this morning?
I've had a cup of tea, but that's all.
We need to know. We need to know, with your own experience, what do you think Donald Trump will be saying at this moment?
Let me put it this way. Personnel is policy. Donald Trump is the president, but what matters are those who will be staffing him at the Undersecretary of State for Africa level, at the National Security Council, and the Pentagon. That is who also in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee separately. That is who needs to be lobbied if the Biafrans are going to convince the United States. Quite frankly, American attention right now is on China, it's on Russia, it's on Israel. It behooves the Biafrans to make sure that Biafra gets the headlines for the right reasons. Okay. If I may, and this isn't an either or, the Somalilanders have been at this for years and have made tremendous strides. You can jump over much of the preliminary work they have done to make your case. And given the Biafran diaspora in the United States, given the talent, given how vocal they are going to be your ambassadors. And so I do think it is possible that the United States will eventually see the light. Frankly, I don't think it's possible to go backwards. No. But as Winston Churchill once said, the United States always does the right thing. They just try everything else first. It's important to get through that process much quicker.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Sister Dominica Oleune. I'm from Olo State. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to take it to him? Thank you.
I'm
Michael,
sorry.
one more question.
I wanted to stay down because I thought I was very tall. But let me climb up here. I want to thank the Biafran government in exile for bringing Ambazonia team here today. This is a wonderful opportunity. My legs are shaking, and I want to say it's a pleasure to have met and listened to Mr. Michael. In fact, I don't just know. I'm pumping out, and I want to make him to understand that Biafra and Ambazonia are seismic twins. I'm seeing him here. I was looking there. All right. Hello. Yeah, they are seismic twins. And I just want to ask you if you've also made some research on the genocide La République du Cameroon is emitting in Ambazonia, with the scorched earth policy, burning of villages, amputation, burning of fathers and mothers in their houses. And if that is done, that would be a very, very great thing for me to take home today. And hail Biafra.
Thank you very much. I am aware of the situation. I'm aware of the fighting between the Francophones and the Anglophones. I'm aware, based on the Cameroonian community in the United States, in Washington, D.C., who say and describe how much of a police state it is as soon as they land in the country, how they're afraid to go back. I've been in, I've listened to phone calls that people have put on speakerphone to hear about the situation back home. So I am aware of the situation. Aside from a brief airport layover in Douala, I've never actually been to Cameroon. And I would hope to be able to write more about it in the future. The closest I have gotten is to the Central African Republic. But look, without doubt, this is my frustration with the United States. Africa is the second most populous continent. It is, when I look at the economy of Africa, largely, the fact of the matter is Africa is the continent of the 21st century. And I find it shameful, the difference between the rhetoric of the United States and the reality of our policy. We should not be ignoring Africa anywhere. And that means not only the good news stories, but also the problems, such as what's happening in northern Cameroon.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, do you still have time for a few more questions? A lot of people.
Of course I do.
Okay, thank you. You won. Just a second. Thank you. Yeah, you can come.
Good day, Michael.
Good day.
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
My name is Dr. Ngozi Orobweze. I am the Chief of Staff to the United States of Biafra. I thank you for your comments. Don't really have any question for you because what you've said is what any sensible, decent human being will say. But I just want to use this opportunity on behalf of my Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa, to thank you for standing up for Biafra. Please continue to do what you're doing for us. Biafrans and generations unborn will be very, very kind to you. That's all I need to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I pray that we will be able to see him in person soon. Free from Finnish prison.
Thank you. Who? Who? Oh, this one? Okay. So, Michael, we have a young man who wants to speak to you from the perspective of the youth of Biafra.
Thank you.
Hello, Michael. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, thank you so much.
That's good. So my name is Chimuchem Anyomre. My family have brought me out here today to understand about this fight for Biafra and this freedom. And my question is there any way or any advice that you can give to us to be able to, influence the other young students or young people who want to try and at least contribute or try and help out spreading the word and trying to get a lot of people to get involved with this freedom for our Biafra and everything?
Yes, my advice is always write, and write. But don't write simply for the Biafran community. You're writing for people who already agree with you. You want to write specifically for non-Biafrans. You want to write for people that disagree with you. You never want to look at someone as your enemy, but rather as someone who is wrong and needs to be convinced to be right. And if you push them into a corner, it's natural human nature that they're going to dig in their heels. But if they are, if it's not a personalized discussion, but rather a discussion of facts, then they can save face when they switch sides and understand that freedom and liberty for Biafra matter. So write for university newspapers, write for school newspapers, write for local newspapers, and write for national news outlets. What I would always say, again, as a writer, and this is something that I've always scratched my head about. You can see I've scratched all my hair off. The fact of the matter is that people will say, not on the Biafra issue, but on other issues, I wrote a letter to the New York Times and they refused to publish it, so I'm emailing it around, and the letter is 2,000 words long.
Wow.
But New York Times letters are only 125 words. It's not that the New York Times disagreed with Biafra. It's that the letter didn't fit the format. So my advice as someone who's published more than 4,000 op-eds, articles, book chapters, and so forth, is you always look at the other letters, articles, and so forth that are published, and you copy the style precisely. No one is going to make an exception for you. So once you get the system, it's actually easy to get published. Editors need a lot of material. I would also say, and I say this, one of my jobs is as an editor. Editors can be very lazy people. If I have two pieces that come in, and one is already perfectly edited and only takes me 5 minutes to go through, and the other one is a mess and takes me 2 hours to work on, I'm going to go on the one that takes me 5 minutes.
Okay.
And so it's important that the editor's job isn't to make it publishable. It's the writer's job. But you guys have the content. You guys have the facts on your side.
Right.
It's just a matter of figuring out how to get them to the public. Okay. And for that, I commend your energy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless everyone. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Michael, for your support. My question is, why do you think the West, who always clamor for human rights, prefer to partner with these repressive regimes in Africa at the expense of human life?
You know, it's a great question. And it's something that's frustrated me in other contexts. First of all, there's two types of it. Let me put it this way. When George Shultz was the United States Secretary of State under Ronald Reagan, whenever a new U.S. ambassador would be nominated to go to a different country, George Shultz always invited him into his office on the 7th floor of the State Department, and he had a big globe there. And he would tell the ambassador nominee, show me your country. And God forbid if that ambassador pointed to Gabon or Senegal or Somalia or Kenya, George Shultz would say, no, never forget that your country is the United States of America. The point of this is that some ambassadors believe that they are successful if they have good relations with the country to which they are sent. But that's not the job of the ambassador to be liked by the president, the prime minister, or the dictator. It's the job of the president to advocate for United States national interests. And I would argue that United States national interests are at their strongest when they are backed by liberty and moral clarity. So, rather than have an ambassador who simply wants to have good personal relations with an undemocratic leader and therefore endorses undemocratic things or ignores real problems, it's essential that we stand with moral clarity, even if it makes for an uncomfortable meeting. This is why personally, and I wrote about it at the time, I was so disappointed when Secretary of State Antony Blinken, a man who based his legitimacy at his Senate confirmation on the fact that his father-in-law was a Holocaust survivor, when he ignored and took, when he sat with Muhammadu Buhari and when he took Nigeria off the religious freedom watch list. You know, politicians and diplomats don't like to be criticized. And when you see such hypocrisy, if you write about it, and I'm going to the previous question now, that is something which they will notice. They may not want to admit that they are making a mistake, but they will read the criticism and hopefully not make the same mistake twice. So part of the problem is the culture of the American State Department and, frankly, the British Foreign Office and so forth. But part of the problem is that the Biafrans need their voice to be amplified far beyond the borders of Biafra and far beyond the confines of the communities within the diaspora.
Thank you, Michael. No. Last question.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you. I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Yes. Can you please promise the Biafran people that you will keep exposing the Nigerian government and keep exposing their atrocity, and you do the best you can to write up more, whatever you can, to speed up the release of our leader, Prime Minister Mazi Simon Ekpa, which I call my boss. I came across one of your tweets. That was really good. We appreciate you. Please promise the Biafran people that you will keep helping us in fighting our cause. We look up to you, and we believe that you know what we are fighting for, and we really appreciate you. And can Biafran people hear from you? If we can, we hold you accountable with your word that you will always be with us.
Yes. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is the American Enterprise Institute is a nonprofit. I am given the authority to write about whatever I want. There is no pay to play. I am not a lobbyist. I accept no money for my writing. I write based on the principle of what I see, with an effort driven only by me to pursue and to try to change American policy to what I believe would be more just. And therefore, when it comes to me, you don't need to worry about any contract running out or anything like that. That's not why I'm involved. And again, I will never accept any money from a Nigerian. I will never accept any money from a Biafran. I will never accept any money from a lobbyist. I'm doing this because it's right, and therefore I will continue to do it. It's a publisher-perished world for an academic, and I'm hooked on the Biafran cause.
Thank you very much. One more again, Congressman Jim Moran, which I know you know, and he's our lobby, and we actually have an alliance here with us as well. Can you as well promise Biafrans that you will work closely, I know, with your, what you're doing, and Congressman Moran and alliance, they'll be doing a good job, that you work closely with them as well to bring justice for Biafran people. Thank you.
If I may just say, I've testified in Congress before Jim Moran when he was in Congress. And the congressman and I disagree on everything. It wasn't a pleasant hearing for me, and it may not have been a pleasant hearing for him. But, sometimes principle unites. And whatever disagreements we may have on other issues, they don't extend to Biafra. And it's a pleasure to work with allies wherever one can find them, on any side of the aisle. Biafra should not be a partisan cause in the United States. It should be a cause of principle, and therefore I know that we will continue to work towards a common goal when it comes to justice and freedom and liberty for Biafra. I commend Jim Moran for what he's been doing because partisanship doesn't come into play with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rubin, thank you very much for your commitment in putting the truth out there to the public. On behalf of the Prime Minister, as the government representative in Europe, and I also live in Finland here, in your own words, what would you tell the Finnish authorities right now in regards to the allegations of incitement by our Honorable Prime Minister?
Finland's got to be on the right side of history. Finland especially should live up to its status, its claim as being the freest country on earth. That's what Freedom House ranked it as, and right now they're endangering their status. I should note that this isn't just a Nigeria-Finland issue. When there was an argument, when there was an effort for Finland and Sweden to join NATO, Turkey tried to blackmail both, but mostly Sweden, in order to betray Kurds, and Kurdish dissidents and Kurdish free speech in Sweden, in order to get Recep Tayyip Erdogan to drop his objection to Sweden's accession to NATO. And in the end, Sweden betrayed its principles, and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, while he allowed Sweden in NATO, gratuitously humiliated Sweden. Finland should not allow itself to be gratuitously humiliated by a country that violates religious freedom, by a country that violates democracy, by a country that has been guilty of genocide. Finland must be better, and they must recognize that they should not be an arm of transnational repression.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rubin.
Okay.
This concludes our session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Biafrans, we say, wow. We say, wow. Did you just listen to Mr. Rubin? Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. We thank Mr. Rubin again. This gives us courage that they know. They actually know the truth. We only have to push and do the right things. Do it right, and they will hear. We will bring that wall down.